George Clooney and Brad Pitt's new movie, Wolves, is on Apple TV Plus September 27th.
That's where I want you to be now.
So if you want to see George Clooney and Brad Pitt, go to Apple TV Plus.
You got to start the story there.
Or if you want to see Brad Pitt and George Clooney, go to Apple TV Plus.
I am enjoying the show.
And if you want to see their new movie, Wolves,
you can't do it, I'm going to help you out. I can do it. So do it.
definitely go to Apple TV Plus.
Admit it, it's cool. Okay, fine, it was very cool.
Wolves, streaming September 27th on Apple TV Plus. Rated R.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Do you have a point of sale system you can trust, or is it a real POS? You need Shopify for retail. From accepting payments to managing inventory, Shopify POS has everything you need to sell in person. Go to shopify.com/system, all lowercase, to take your retail business to the next level today. That's shopify.com/system.
This is Sid and Friends in the Morning.
For my friends.
77 WABC.
How much do you love Sam Rosen? And what do you want to say to Sam, who's listening right now as he prepares for his last season as the voice of the Rangers?
Well, you know, I developed a rapport with Sam and JD immediately when I came to New York. And it was amazing. They were part of the team. They had, Sam had been around a long time. JD had played. They understood what was happening. Sam had seen a lot. And, we were on a march to win the Stanley Cup for my first year I got there in 91, and they were part of it. One of the best moments that I'll never forget is when they were sitting at the desk at MSG broadcasting the parade and all that was going on, and they picked them up and brought them down in a police squad car, and wow. They partaked in the parade with us.
Awesome.
And that's what it takes in an organization to win. Everybody's got to be on board. And wow, Sam, what a 39 years of bringing the Ranger games into people's living rooms through the radio and TV. I mean, unbelievable career.
The captain, the great Mark Messier. Go back to our last conversation. I mean, obviously, the Amato thing, allegedly she stole the election. Let me make that clear, because you never know these days. People get very, very litigious. So, allegedly. The proof that I saw, allegedly. But that was Messier. Tacopina can appreciate allegedly, if anybody can. That was Messier yesterday. We spoke about a variety of things. Tomorrow in New Jersey, the Rangers are going to celebrate the 30-year anniversary of the team that won the Cup. It's been 30 years already. They've won one in 84 years. And yet I allow the guy to my left, Morgan, and the guy on the phone, Tacopina, to get me excited every postseason when I know going in they're going to lose. They're going to lose.
Stop.
Not stopping. They're going to lose. And Messier agreed with me yesterday, there's a difference between a regular season successful player and a guy that wins championships. And none of these guys on the Rangers, none of them, Kreider had one good period, have shown they've got the mettle to win championships. None of them. Maybe Shesterkin, maybe. Not even him. So until they win it, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. They can get 130 points this year. It means nothing to me. So we're getting ready for a new season. I know the Yankees are going to the playoffs. The Mets are going to the playoffs. The Jets look really good. And the Knicks may be right there in the end, too. But the Rangers are going to do it to us again. They're going to win a lot of games during the regular season. You and Taki, on and on. Rampy! And then they're going to lose in the second round. Joseph Tacopina, good morning, buddy. How are you?
No, I don't feel good when you talk like that.
Yeah, I know. It's tough.
You start my morning off in a bad way. Sid, I'm still, honestly, between you and I'm still in, this is a HIPAA violation I'm going to commit against myself, but I'm still in therapy from the last playoff run of the Rangers. I'm not going to do what you just said. I know Pete will. I just spoke to Pete, but I know he will. I'm actually jaded at this point. I thought last year was our year. I thought because we were so dominant during the regular season, we looked invincible. We have the best goalie on the planet. And what you saw in the playoffs, I mean, look, we went to the finals of the conference, but we got handed, by the Panthers. We got handed the series on a platter. I mean, they killed us. And to me, it was unacceptable, and I'm worried because we didn't do anything. Look, don't forget, 3 years ago, the Florida Panthers were the best team in the league. They won the President's Trophy, and they got bounced in the first round of the playoffs. Bill Zito, their great GM, changed their entire team after winning the President's Trophy. He changed the makeup of that team, traded Huberdeau, traded Wegner, brought in Matthew Tkachuk. They brought in the grit. And he said basically, all that pretty stuff is great for the President's Trophy. It doesn't win playoffs. And then they wound up going to the Stanley Cup Finals last year, and then winning. 2 seasons ago, and then winning the Stanley Cup last year because he changed the makeup of that team. The Rangers didn't do any of it.
No.
We're sitting tight with the same team, and that's what worries me. Yep. Because Panarin, I love Panarin, and I love Zibanejad, but my God, those two guys were ghosts.
Listen, I got news for you. Kreider was too. He had one great period against Carolina.
Right.
One
Absolutely.
great period. Yeah, that was it.
He saved us.
Yeah.
He saved us in the Carolina series,
right.
But other than that, he was a ghost too.
Ghost, yeah.
And that's just not, that's the three big guns.
I know.
That's none of those guys. Yeah. So I'm not. This year's going to be a little different. If we're in first place in December and we're killing everyone, I'm going to be optimistic, but with caution.
There you go. That's fair.
I have to be. You're right. You're right, because until we show we could do something in the playoffs, none of that matters, right? Unless you win the Stanley Cup, you're a loser.
Agreed.
So that's it.
Larry Kudlow here with an urgent warning. Washington is coming for your savings to pay for their spending mistakes. That's why thousands of Americans are shielding their savings with gold. For a free 2024 gold guide that explains everything you need to know, please go to colonialmetalsgroup.com/Kudlow or just call 800-621-3908. That's 800-621-3908 for your free gold guide and learn if you qualify for up to $7,500 in free silver now.
Advanced Radiation Centers of New York emphasizes the importance of prostate cancer screening and encourages everyone to schedule their PSA test. Early detection is crucial for survival. ARC is at the forefront with advanced radiation technologies to cure prostate cancer. ARC is the first in the U.S. to perform the BioProtect balloon spacer, which minimizes damage to healthy tissue. Get tested today. For more info, visit advancedradiationcenters.com or you can call them 866-955-4ARC. That's 866-955-4ARC.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Do you have a point of sale system you can trust, or is it a real POS? You need Shopify for retail. From accepting payments to managing inventory, Shopify POS has everything you need to sell in person. Go to shopify.com/system, all lowercase, to take your retail business to the next level today. That's shopify.com/system.
My buddy Tom Mango checks in.
Oh, boy.
And he also loves the Rangers like you two guys. But he's on my page and Joe's page. Sorry, Pete. And he says, what did Mango say? You're 100% right. We're going to suck in the playoffs again. All right, Tack, let's get to P. Diddy. This is something that's been brewing for years. And then they raided his homes in Los Angeles and Miami months ago. And that's the first time we heard about sex trafficking. And as it turns out, and I'm not the lawyer here, but it sounds worse than what Jeffrey Epstein or R. Kelly or even Weinstein may have done, because with him, with this psycho, he's got drugs, he's got violence, he's on video beating up girls. I mean, it seems to me like they've got a ton of stuff against this guy. Somebody asked me yesterday, will P. Diddy ever see the light of day? And I promoted you. But the truth, in my opinion, I don't know if he will.
Sid, look, I did this long interview yesterday with Harvey Levin on TMZ that he's going to come out next week with this big piece on it.
Wow.
And in order to be prepared for Harvey and I spent an hour, and I've known Harvey for almost 25 since the Michael Jackson case. So I had to really get underneath the facts of this case as much as I could from an outside perspective, right? I read all the bail hearing minutes, the transcripts of the bail hearings. I read where the prosecutor really lays out their case. I disagree with you. This is not Harvey Weinstein.
Really?
And this is not Jeffrey Epstein. No.
Really?
No. Look,
what about these freak offs that this guy was doing?
Okay, freak offs. Look, weird stuff, Sid. I mean, you and I don't do that. Maybe Pete. I think Pete's more like that.
It's big in Jersey, very big in Jersey. Yeah.
But it's a Jersey thing. But freak-offs, if you think of how it sounds weird, but they're making it sound like people were tied down with guns to their head. These were, from my understanding, and I read the transcript of the prosecutor's arguments in court. No one put a gun to anyone's head. No one was tied down and forced against their will. Everyone was all too happy to be in P. Diddy's orbit, going on his yachts, going on his private planes, being there, having him pay for their homes, their cars, their meals, and being in his world when he was the celebrity, the superstar. And they did these things with him. Now, what they're now saying, 20 years later, is I didn't really want to do it, but he wouldn't have paid my house anymore. He wouldn't have paid for my cars. Well, he doesn't have to pay for your house. He doesn't have to pay for your cars. That's a far cry from Jeffrey Epstein taking minors onto an island. And obviously, anytime you have sex with a minor, it's a rape. You can't get their consent. No one's claiming here we have minors, okay? So let me break down this case for you a little bit. Look, when I first read about it, I'm like, oh, my God, this guy's dead. The evidence is overwhelming. And there's issues like the guns and stuff like that, but that's not what he's charged with. There are 3 counts here, Sid. This indictment actually was really no surprise. These allegations have been circling around him for a long time. But what's really interesting in this case, and here's where I say it's a peek behind the curtain, and I don't think we should jump to he's going to spend the rest of his life in prison conclusion so quickly. The peek behind the curtain is count 2 of this indictment. Count 2 of this indictment charges sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, right? That's the big one, sex trafficking. You know how many victims are in sex trafficking in that count? One. There's all these women. 28 women came forward only after Cassie, whatever her name is, settled that big case, which was the worst lawyering I've ever seen in my life, and I'll explain why in a second. But she is the only one identified as a victim in the sex trafficking count. What? That was his longtime girlfriend.
Yeah.
Where was she being a sex trafficking victim? So if I were his attorneys, I would focus on consent. I would argue that these women were participating in freak-offs consensually. That would seem to be the primary defense here, especially given that no one went to law enforcement before Cassie went public, opening the floodgates for the Me Too. And I say no one because no charges were ever brought until now. The feds opened up this investigation this year when they had that civil settlement. That's when this happened. That's when this all started. And the defense shouldn't just focus on consent. I'd also focus on the motive of the people now, I would say, fabricating claims for financial reasons, especially after none of them had come forward until this one woman brought a lawsuit and P. Diddy's lawyers settled that case within 24 hours, worse than you could ever do. That's why those settlements should be reached before a complaint is ever filed, right? You don't do what happened here was I'm shocked that this happened, that his lawyers did this, because you have a case where, and I've represented a lot of celebrities in his shoes, where someone's claiming you did this to me, you did that to me. Sometimes it's true, sometimes it's not, Sid. But no matter what, sometimes you just settle the case so this doesn't happen. So you don't have a front page, red ink, end of the world headline in the New York Post saying, sex slave, this or that or whatever. You settle the case sometimes to make it go away. A nuisance settlement, it's called. And happens all the time. President Trump said he did that, right? It's not unusual, especially with high-powered, high-profile men. So you settle the case, and it goes away. You pay money, it's over. What you don't do is say, I'm not settling the case. You fight in negotiations. You say, you know what, I'm not settling, go file your case. They file the case. You get the worst press in the world. Your reputation is damaged, destroyed. And then one day later, literally 24 hours later, you say, okay, I'll give you the money. That you got the worst of all worlds there because you let them file the suit. Right. You settled the case. Now you told the rest of the world, come on, bring your claims, and you get money too. And that's exactly what happened. After she went, 27 others came forward civilly for money. It's not like any of these women went to the police back then and said, hey, I've been a victim. So, look, we need to uncover the evidence. Look, the video that you said, he's not on video beating up women, plural. There's that one video that looks gross and horrible, and I have no understanding or tolerance for lifting a finger to a woman as a man. I just don't do it. I can't understand it. There's no justification. I don't care if she hit him in the head with a cell phone or whatever they said. And I'm sure she did. right? I'm sure he didn't just like all of a sudden look at her and go, and start beating her up, right? I'm sure there was something that precipitated that, but there's no excuse for it. But the prosecution is going to say, oh, that's a pattern. The defense is going to argue that they're going to diffuse that by saying that's an unrelated, isolated incident. That's a lover's quarrel. That's a spat. That's a fight, a physical fight between a couple. That had nothing to do with a freak-off. That wasn't a part of a freak-off. That was a domestic dispute. That's a misdemeanor in state court in New York, not a part of a RICO indictment. Do you understand they charge him with RICO, Sid? RICO. And RICO is reserved normally for organized crime figures or Medellin cartel.
Or Rudy Giuliani.
Not for Rudy Giuliani, exactly, who's now an organized crime figure. So that's, I mean, but RICO and I watched the press conference of the United States Attorney, and he said freak off like 30 times. And I'm like, I don't even know what a freak off is.
Yeah.
What a freak off. Then when you listen to what they were saying at the bail argument, oh, these women were in freak offs. And, if they didn't participate, he wouldn't pay for their house. Okay.
Yeah, it does sound a little silly. So I guess the last two judges said no to bail. When do you think somebody's going to say yes or what?
I don't know. Listen, honest to God, this is another case. We've said this about, President Trump. If he weren't P. Diddy, do I think this case would be brought by the feds? Absolutely not. If this was Johnson, this is a state case. This is a state case. If it's a case, it's a state case. When you talk about a sexual assault case, it's a state case. They made this federal case by making this a RICO, a racketeering enterprise. Freak-offs are now part of a racketeering group organization, apparently. Should he be out on bail? Of course he should. The bail package they offered, I mean, aside from $50 million, home arrest, where he stays in his house under a monitoring bracelet, and he's paying for security to make sure he doesn't get out of that house.
Yeah.
He's at his dime. Come on.
Yeah.
Where is he a risk of flight or a risk?
Well, he's got money. He can leave. And the other thing is this. They put him on suicide watch. That's just a formality. There's nothing.
That's a formality.
Yeah.
That's a formality. That's another thing. You read that stuff. It's like, come on. That's to make him look bad, to put pressure on him. There's no indicia. There's zero indicia that he has done anything suicidal. But when someone, is not used to being in prison, they're put in prison, and they're upset by it, all of a sudden suicide watch.
Right.
With the last thing they want is another Jeffrey Epstein on their hands.
Right.
So that's what that's all about. I just look. Am I saying this is a walk in the park case? Absolutely not. But am I saying this is a fait accompli? No, I'm not. I'd like to see the evidence in this case, because right now, I have all the complaining witnesses, all the quote unquote victims in this case have financial motives. None of them came forward unless they were getting money. They all wanted money to come forward.
Yeah.
So that's a financial motive. And look, I don't want to hear about, you're victimizing the victim. No, I'm not. When you're being accused of something as horrific as a sex crime, you have the right, in our country, due process demands, you have the right to ask questions regarding the credibility of the allegation. It doesn't mean you're victimizing the victim. That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. You get to say, well, okay, it was 15 years ago. How come you never said anything to anyone?
Right.
Okay, there may be a good answer to that, but we get to ask the question. Okay, it was 15 years ago. How come you didn't say anything to anyone and you went to your lawyer to try and get money instead of going to the police if you wanted justice? You didn't go to the police. You went to a lawyer. You sought money, right? I mean, you get to ask those questions. Because financial motive is a basis for cross-examination. It goes to motive. It goes to bias. It's what you're incompetent as a lawyer if you don't cross-examine on that. So when lawyers get attacked for questioning the motive or the allegation, I find it ridiculous, because God forbid any of us were in that position where someone made an allegation against us and say it was a false one, because false allegations happen, believe it or not. Look at Kevin Spacey. Okay, Kevin Spacey's life career was destroyed. And he was vindicated and cleared in a courtroom, but not that was it. They canceled his show within a week when those allegations were made. He was canceled in life, and he was vindicated twice. Okay, and he has nowhere to go now. So I'm sorry, I'm not willing to destroy someone's life, cancel their whole entire reputation, just make them a pariah without knowing a little bit more about the allegations. You should be able to do that in our society without getting into a tizzy that you're victimizing the victim. First, they're not deemed the victim yet until there's an adjudication that they are. Right now, there's an allegation and there's someone being accused of something. I've represented far too many people, Sid, who've been accused of things, horrific things, who have truly been innocent. But for the examination, the cross-examination, the uncovering of evidence, the questioning of evidence, none of that would have come to light. And people's lives have been saved because of that. And I'm not saying everyone's innocent, of course not. But some are. And until you get to the bottom of it, you don't know.
That is a heck of a job right there, Joseph Tacopina. That is the best P. Diddy analysis, even Lou giving you the big thumbs up here, that I've heard since all this has gone down the last couple of days. So thank you. Thank you a million times for coming on today and showing us some light on this, because I think a lot of us had this guy guilty. He may still be guilty, but at least, like you said, we don't know yet. So thank you for an amazing appearance. We love you. We'll do it again next week, Joe. Thank you.
Okay, my brother. Say it a piece.
It's a great job, Joseph Tacopina, right? Great job.